All right, welcome to Revolution Health. This is Dr. Jason Dean on a Friday for anybody out there who is jumping on this as we get some more traffic from Facebook Live. And hi, Tara, welcome back.
Hi, Jason. It's good to be back.
Excellent. So it's actually funny because I knew I'd wanted to bring you back for some time. We talked behind the scenes, but then I was flying from to California last Thursday, and I needed something to do for 6 hours on a plane other than work. So I downloaded a certain documentary that was on Netflix called The Root Cause. And mind blowing, but the first thing it made me think of was Tara. And so I said, we need to talk again because this is such a health crisis that we need to talk to anybody who's had any type of experiment or any type of experience with this in general. And we're talking about root canals. So I want to actually first off have you catch everyone up with a little about your health history, but also how this pertains to you because you've had a pretty severe experience with the root canals. And you actually saw the movie, but not only that, a doctor who we both know very well is in that movie.
That's right. Yeah. So, yes, I have a crazy, crazy health story. And I only started sharing it publicly in September. And I was prompted to share my health story actually because of my root canals and what I went through my entire life and how few people knew about the problem of root canals and how that impacts your overall health and autoimmune issues and leads to cancer and some such diseases that I reached a point where I really felt compelled. I felt that it was necessary to start speaking out about my own story in order to basically educate others so that they can make informed choices. So I'm definitely not a person that's trying to tell people pull your teeth out, or don't have root canals. That is not my platform. What I am trying to do is educate people so that you can make informed decisions, because what's happening right now is that when people are told that they have a dead tooth and they need to have a root canal, they don't know that there's other options. So my health story, so I'm 44 and I had some symptoms, I always called it just symptoms. Throughout my life since childhood, I had things like aches and pains in my joints, I had headaches, and I had digestive issues. So, and now after having gone through all the testing, I did learn from Dr. Minkoff, Dr. David Minkoff, who is featured in the movie Root Cause, that I actually did have a virus since I was an infant. And I did have leaky gut syndrome since I was an infant. And all this is done through testing. So it's not just theory or just like, I suspect or I think. It was confirmed through testing. And so I had those precursors. So I was predispositioned, so to speak, already kind of like set up for some autoimmune types issues. I was also bottle fed. I was put on a ton of antibiotics my entire childhood. So I grew up in a very conventional medical mindset that if you got sick, you went to the doctor, and whatever the doctor said, that's what you do. So that's what my family did, and that's what I did. So trying to make a very long story short for the people who are watching this, when I was 8 or 9 years old, I had a bicycle accident like so many children do. And I broke my two front teeth. And a few months later, they abscessed. And so they were both root canaled. And nobody thought anything of it. That's just like the normal thing to do. We put some bonding on it so that they looked pretty, and they were root canaled. And we went on with life, except that I started to have 24/7 headaches. This is really like, there were two times in my life that just were the turning points in my health. And this was one. So starting around after I had those root canals, my joint pain increased, my energy decreased, I had increased digestive problems, and I started to complain about headaches 24/7. And so all my blood tests were normal, and everything that the doctor saw was completely normal. So they said, you're fine, you're healthy, just go on with your life. So then in my teen years, I developed acne, and the joint pain increased, and I was put on a ton of antibiotics. And so then I started to develop really severe intestinal problems. Again, all my blood work was perfectly fine and normal, so the doctor said I was fine and continue on with your life happily. Except that I was this incredible athlete and I couldn't actually participate in the sports that I was doing because I was in pain. I was in chronic pain, and I was only a teenager. So then, in my 20s, I was traveling abroad. And so, to make sure that I was in good health and to make sure that I was well protected to travel overseas, two things occurred simultaneously, like really back to back. I got every vaccine known to man all on the same day. I mean, just like ridiculous amounts of vaccines and ones that you wouldn't even get in this country because I was traveling abroad. And right at that same time period, I went to a dentist that said, well, it looks like you have infected root canals. We're going to re-root canal your teeth. And again, I was still very conventional mindset, and whatever the medical doctor told me to do, I did because I wanted to be healthy. You know, I wanted to be a healthy person. And I thought that, well, the doctors know, so I'm going to follow their advice. So this particular dentist re-root canal my teeth, which means they put in a new post and they clean it all out, except that the posts that he put into my roots were too large and they cracked both of my roots. So that alone is a problem. And at this point, my teeth were dying and rotting because they were, they're dead organs in your body that are being held in place by metal. And then they capped my teeth when I was 24. And they capped it with all kinds of metals that I later found out just a few months ago through a Clifford compatibility test. I was allergic to every single metal that they put in my teeth. Every single metal I was allergic to. So for 20 years, I had an allergy to the materials that were used in my mouth. I had cracked roots, and I had 2 infections in my jawbone. Well, it's like 1 infection in my jawbone, but from 2 root canals. None of this was known. So 1 month later, 1 month, I got sicker. This is the second thing that happened with my health. These are the 2 pivotal aspects of my health. 1, 2 root canals after falling off the bike. And 2, I got sick 1 month later with Epstein-Barr virus. And, if you're the average person and you get Epstein-Barr virus, whatever, it's a virus just like any other virus. But I already had an infection in my intestines since I was an infant. I already had infection in my jaw since the age of 8 or 9. I'd been put on antibiotics, years at a time for acne. I was put on the birth control pill to balance my hormones. And I had been in steroids, prednisone, several times for the pain in my joints. So, you took a healthy body, I was born healthy, and you just bombard it with all kinds of medications. Oh, and I ate so much sugar. You have no idea how much sugar I ate. My entire diet just consisted of cereal and waffles and pancakes and juice and sugar. So, I had a horrible diet. So you add all that up and you're looking, it's a recipe for disaster, which is exactly what happened. I was bedridden for a month. Nobody knew what was wrong. Everybody was like, you're young, you have a cold. What's the big deal? Get on with your life. I never recovered. I've been exhausted ever since. Still, there's so much to the story, trying to keep it short.
And fast forward, because I do want to get into something that you have done to completely change your world. But fast forward to, you had your teeth taken out, which is not something easy for you to do because it's your 2 front teeth, right?
My 2 front teeth.
Yeah, they come out.
It's not fun for anybody to take your teeth out, right? And nobody wants to take their 2 front teeth out, especially if you're a woman. And, what are you going to look like after you take your 2 front teeth out? What's my husband going to think when I come home and I don't have 2 front teeth? It's a hard decision. That's the vanity piece. The other piece is, what if it doesn't work? What if I do this extreme measure of extracting my 2 root canal teeth and I don't get better? And there's a lot of fear and a lot of pain. It was not fun.
You felt immediate change. I remember you telling me behind the scenes, I think we mentioned it the first time, is you felt almost upon extraction the change.
Yeah, it was during the extraction. So all those fears going into the surgery. And so during the surgery, I was awake for the whole thing. I had, of course, no, I was numb, but I was awake for the whole surgery. I had an amazing surgeon. And I was extremely anxious. They had my heart rate monitored and it was off the charts, and I was gripping onto the chair. As my teeth came halfway out, I could feel it. I cannot explain to you the relief that I felt in my body, and I calmed down and I stopped gripping the chair and I was able to finally take some deep breaths. It still is remarkable to me, the fact that my nervous system calmed down instantly, because it was like this irritation, this chronic irritation that had been in my body for so long, all of a sudden ceased. It's like a white noise and irritation, just this thing upsetting my body and upsetting my nervous system. It just ceased instantly. And that's when I knew that I made the right decision. No matter what it looked like, I knew I made the right decision.
And it makes total sense. And it's amazing because watching the film, and I think these are roughly the exact stats, maybe a point off or two, but I believe it was 98% of terminal breast cancer patients have root canals, and then about 96% of just chronic disease patients have root canals. And one of the things that the movie shows, and you've had done, which I want to transition into this because this is so big for you, is when doing a root canal and getting to the bottom, one of the keys for this, and you have to have a holistic biological dentist to do this, is you have to treat it with ozone therapy. And you had that done as well, correct?
Yes. Ozone has changed my life. It was the missing piece. I call it my happy gas.
Yeah. And before we dive into that, just so everyone knows, so, I guess I'm a bit of conspiracy theorist because I just been promoting Alex Jones the last 2 days. But so Netflix took the root cause off. I think I was one of the last ones to probably watch it, and I downloaded it because it was digital at that point. They took it off. I think you can still get it in the mail, but they took it off. It's only available, I think, on Amazon and possibly YouTube. You got to pay for it. It's well worth everything on that. But diving into it, let's talk about ozone, because not only have you had it, you've used it repeatedly as a therapy, but now like you've actually taken this into your purpose and passion of helping other people, and you're actually creating ozone products. So talk to us about ozone and what you know about that and how much it helps in healing.
Okay. Well, how much time do we have?
Seriously,
I could talk about this forever. It's my passion.
Go for it.
All right. So ozone, yes. Ozone was the missing piece for me. And I think it's the missing piece for a lot of us as holistic practitioners, as whomever, medical doctors, chiropractors, nutritionists, whoever you are, helping people with their health. Those of us who are chronically ill, who get to a certain point and we just don't get any further. For me and for so many others, I've actually discovered one of the main reasons why, and it's a lack of oxygen. And so it's literally a suffocation of the cells of the body. And what I've learned through my process is that it all comes down to the cells. So nothing has changed as far as my philosophy in nutrition. I am a certified nutritional consultant. I'm a whole food nutritionist. Nothing's changed there. I do everything that I've always done, and I have a rock solid foundation, nutritional foundation. But what I learned that I didn't know about ozone is that it is basically oxygen on steroids. It's supercharged oxygen, literally. So the science behind it, I'm going to keep this pretty simple, is that oxygen is a molecule and it has two atoms of oxygen, and they're electrically charged. And ozone is a molecule that has three atoms of oxygen, and it's unstable, and that's a good thing, because what that means is that as soon as ozone touches a fatty tissue like your skin or your body, like any area of your body, or an oil, those oxygen atoms release into the lipids, and it creates something called ozonides, or lipid peroxides. And that's actually what is happening in the body is the lipid peroxides get into the lipids, the fat cells of the body, and they go everywhere. And they last for up to 3 weeks, so 10 days to 3 weeks. So ozone is, it's unstable, which means it's in nanoseconds that this charge, it basically the way that you make medical grade ozone, we're not talking about that ozone in the atmosphere. These are two completely different conversations that get confused. Ozone is made in a medical generator, and it was actually, Tesla is the person who figured out how to create an ozone generator. Ozone's been around since the early 1800s, and it was used in medicine in the early 1800s. And then in the late 1800s, Tesla figured out how to create a generator, a corona generator, ozone generator. And then in 1903, he created ozone oil. So Tesla is the creator of ozone oil in 1903. This has been around forever. Ozone has been used in medicine for about 150 years. And it only stopped being used in medicine when antibiotics were found, when penicillin came out, in the 1940s. So,
I now rank and I can say this. You don't have to say it, and because I don't care anymore. I now rank antibiotics probably pretty close up there to vaccinations on how just absolutely purely destructive. And people have asked me, well, there's a time and place for it. Okay, that's your opinion on it. And they asked, would you ever take it? I said, honestly, I would have to be in a zombie apocalypse before you get me to take an antibiotic. Not because I think it's like the worst thing in the world, it's close to it, but there are so many things you can do to kill a bacteria before you ever got to an antibiotic. It's just the problem is we've been so programmed into the medical paradigm that you think that's the first thing we have to do. There's about 100 plus things that you can do way before you ever come to an antibiotic. And at the end of the day, it's just a bacteria. You just kill it off.
Yes. I tell people myself, very similar to you, I would have to be on my deathbed in order for you to give me an antibiotic. Antibiotics and medicines and vaccines, and unfortunately, the medical model is what happened. It injured my body. The reason my body is in the state that it is because I was injured by things such as antibiotics. There's a lot more to my story. We're simplifying it, but I agree with you about that. And ozone, first of all, I'm going to do that disclaimer. I'm not a medical doctor, and I'm not telling people to use this as medical treatment to cure anything. Having said that, ozone is a natural antibiotic, and it was used as an antibiotic up until penicillin was discovered. Ozone kills pathogens on contact. I mean, there's no like, well, you have to wait a week or two. No, it's on contact. So the instant that ozone touches a bacteria, a virus, a pathogen of any sort, a parasite, it kills it on contact. And in addition to that, which is so beautiful, is it doesn't harm the good bugs in your body. So the good bugs in your body are aerobic. They want oxygen. And so ozone increases your oxygen metabolism. And that's very key because you can get all the oxygen in the world. You can breathe it, you can be around it. But if you can't metabolize oxygen, then you're not utilizing oxygen. And that's what happened to me because my mitochondria had became dysfunctional. They had become so broken, so destroyed, basically, from the combination of medications and the toxins that I had been exposed to. My mitochondria literally weren't working. And as a result, I was in such a state of fatigue that I was bedridden. I would say, this is all before I learned about ozone. I would literally use the words, I feel like I'm suffocating. I would use the words like, and I would say at a cellular level. And my husband would say, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know. I'm in so much cellular pain. I feel like my cells are screaming for oxygen, like they're suffocating. And it is a painful, painful death. And I feel like my cells are dying. And that was just me articulating what I was experiencing. And then I learned about ozone, and I'm like, oh my God, that's like literally what ozone does. Is it gets the oxygen into the cell so that the mitochondria can actually metabolize the oxygen and transform it into ATP and produce energy. So you can be exposed to oxygen all day long, but if your mitochondria are dysfunctional and they can't do that oxygen metabolism and convert the oxygen into energy, you're sick. And that's what's happening to people with chronic illness. I don't care whether it's fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, autoimmune diseases, Lyme's disease. I was told I had lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, celiac disease. The list is longer than my arm. And I was literally living the exact same lifestyle meaning like the same symptoms as somebody who has Lyme's disease. Because all it is I had a main infection and then like a slew of co-infections. And that's exactly what's happening with people who have Lyme's disease. I had Epstein-Barr virus. They had Lyme's disease. It's the same problem that we're dealing with, which is chronic pain and chronic exhaustion because the mitochondria are dysfunctional. And basically, it comes down to cellular health, and it comes down to the mitochondria being able to transform oxygen into ATP. Bam, and there you have ozone.
If you have sick mitochondria, your body will be sick. If you have healthy mitochondria, your body makes energy and makes you go. And it's really as simple as that. And you're totally right. The body has to have oxygen. Oxygen is so healing. Now, on top of that, which I know you're really excited about, you actually created, for anybody out there who is curious, you actually created, and she messages me one night, I have something amazing. I'm like, cool, what is it? So here, you actually created a ozone oil that, there's a lot of products out there, and some are cool and some are not cool. And then I got some, and you sent it over. And so I actually have a father-in-law who's a chemist by trade, and he knows natural health chemistry. He also knows medical chemistry. And I've been married 10 years now. And I remember walking into my wife's house in Miami that her parents owned. I remember smelling this smell in the air. I'm like, what is that? Because I knew nothing about that.
Ozone odor.
She's like, that's ozone. And then I had to learn about ozone from my father-in-law, how healing it was. But you actually created ozone oil, which my wife adores now, because it actually, like, my wife didn't even know she had any sinus issues, and she really doesn't. But like just using it on her sinuses, like it all just started draining like crazy. Tell us about your ozone oil, because it honestly is one of the best healing products I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's actually something that I created. Sorry, my phone. Yeah. Okay. Gladly, I'll talk about it. It is something, first of all, I'm totally selfish. So I found ozone oil for myself. I had absolutely no intention of sharing this with anybody. And it's hilarious because that's actually how I developed my career, and that's how I do everything, is an effort to solve my own problem. And so I wound up being a certified nutritional consultant, totally in an effort to solve my own health problems. And then I did that for 16 years. I'm still doing it, and own my own clinic for 14 years. And then that's the same thing with the ozone oil, is that I developed it 100% for myself. And the story goes that I had such miracles with ozone treatment, IV treatment, that's putting it actually into your veins, which you have to be a doctor to do. And I actually had ozone treatment with the whole extraction process of my root canals. He injected ozone into the infected area multiple times before, during, and after the procedure. And I had an ozone air purifier, and I had been receiving, like, for me, the missing piece of my health was ozone. And so I just, like I do, I'm a total nerd, I'm a geek. So I just started researching like crazy. And one of my dear friends who's a vet, because ozone's used a lot in holistic vet practices with animals, she handed me a jar of ozone oil, and she told me all about it, and I totally dismissed it. That's the crazy thing. I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's nice. You'd use that on your animals. But this, I don't want to make light of it. I respect this woman. She's an amazing holistic vet, and she actually uses ozone in her practice for cancer and terminal illnesses with her animals. And so then all this time went by, and I did all this research, and I found out, oh my God, ozone oil. Tesla created it, does all these things. Like what happens is that it's transdermal. So this ozone goes topically on your skin. And so it's going to saturate your tissues with oxygen. And then your cells heal themselves. And I suffer, every time I detox, I get acne. And every time I work on my thyroid, I get acne. Plus, I'm 44, I'm in my mid 40s, and I'm seeing all this aging happening. And I was spending all this money on skin treatments. And so I started calling people up, and I wanted the best ozone on the market, and I ordered a ton of it, and there was a lot of subpar products out there, and I threw them all away. And I found an ozone oil that I worked with very hard with a manufacturer to develop the most potent ozone oil on the market. I'm very proud of this. The ozone is bubbled into organic, extra virgin, cold pressed olive oil for 3 weeks straight, minimum, sometimes more, 24/7. And it totally, the olive oil then just becomes a carrier for ozone. It's medical grade ozone. It's medical grade oxygen that is in in a carrier of oil. And you put that on your skin. So that's going to go into your bloodstream. It's going to go into your deeper skin tissues. It's getting into the lipids. All the cells, all those mitochondria are then going to be able to metabolize the oxygen from the ozone, which turns into peroxides, which is going to help the mitochondria to use those in those ozonides and use the oxygen to produce ATP, which then gives the cell all the energy that it needs to heal itself. So now you're talking crazy stuff. Like I just started using it myself. I gave it to family members and friends, never thinking that I would actually sell it. And I started getting photographs back and testimonials galore. Like, I mean, psoriasis, eczema, acne, dandruff, red spots, rashes that people don't even know what it is, allergic reactions on people's skins, cuts, scars, surgical wounds, stretch marks. I mean, I literally can't keep up with the amount of testimonials that are coming in. And I'm blown away. For me, it got rid of dark circles under my eyes. I've been ill for so long. I developed these dark circles under my eyes, and they just brightened up like there was literally like a light bulb underneath my skin. My eyes brightened up. All my blackheads cleared up. And, I thought that was going to be something I was going to deal with the rest of my life, considering I'm in my 40s. All my blackheads cleared up. My acne cleared up in 9 days. We have photographs of before and after in just 9 days. I had a patch of psoriasis that cleared up for me. My skin tightened up. I have a woman that's writing to me like 4 times that her lips actually plumped out, and she's an older woman. Like it's just oxygen, and oxygen heals the cells of the body, and the body heals itself. So it's very, very simple. Did I answer your question?
It's so funny because you just said something that's actually really profound that anybody could take as like, wow, major revelation. Is you said it's just oxygen. But that's the key, because we are in such a toxic society and planet now, and the chronic illness is so insane because of all this toxicity, food system, chemicals, metals, you name it, that all it takes is honestly sometimes a little oxygen in the system to actually honestly handle and heal some things, because it is oxygen, and oxygen is required in the human body. It's required in life. And so we're such a toxic system now that really oxygen can create miracles.
It can, and what you said is so key. Like in figuring out this missing element for me, oxygen, it really came to a head when I moved to New York City, Manhattan. So I was living in upstate New York. Some people don't realize that New York State is actually mostly farmland.
We're both from New York. We're both from New York, and I get the same questions that that Tara gets when someone says, where are you from? And I say New York, and they automatically assume that it's New York City. And I have to explain that they're actually basically really two different states.
Totally.
And New York State is a beautiful land of fields and trees and grass. And then New York City, go ahead, Tara, you can explain New York City.
Yeah, well, New York City is insane. I mean, if you've ever, I was born in New York City, and I swore that I would never move back. My entire family is from New York City, and I swore up and down that I would never live in the city again. And I lived all over the country and all over the world. And then I met my husband 4 years ago, and he has a fashion business in the garment center of Manhattan. So I didn't really have much of a choice. So I wanted to be with my husband. I had to move back to New York City. And I'm so glad I did. I absolutely have fallen in love with Manhattan. I'm so glad I moved here. But what happened was that I was really at a critical point in my health when I moved from the countryside with an abundance of oxygen and fresh, clean air to downtown, like midtown Manhattan in the garment district. And I couldn't breathe. And it wasn't an asthma. I'm not talking about like asthma or something like that. I don't have any kind of lung problems. I just kept repeating, I can't breathe. I can't get oxygen. And this was all before I learned about ozone. So, it's very interesting. I intuitively would actually go to Central Park. I would make a point of going to Central Park just so that I could breathe. And I learned that, my body was desperately trying to get oxygen because of the pollution. And when you've got so much pollution and so much toxicity in the air, the oxygen levels actually literally decrease. So I've done so much in my home. I literally have created a little healing bubble in my apartment. We could do an entire show literally just on all of the techniques and all the things that I've done to create a healing bubble in my apartment, because I've literally increased the oxygen in my apartment. And people notice it when they come in. They'll come in and they take a deep breath and they're like, it feels different in here. And they don't know what it is. And I'm like, well, that's because I literally increased the oxygen in my apartment. And it's a really easy thing to do.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So everyone wants to know, Tara. Everyone's asking for the oxygen. Where do they get? So where do they go to find Tara's Ozone Oxygen Oil?
So my website, and it's Tara's Ozone. So TarasOzone.com. So Tara's Ozone.
They can get more information there, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. We just launched the site, so we're putting more and new information on it on a regular basis, but there's more information about the oil, the ozone oil, and about ozone on the site. And then also, I started posting on social media, like I said, starting in September. Prior to September, I really didn't, but I wanted to get my story out there. So my Facebook is actually a great place to learn more about ozone, ozone oil, and a lot of the various health techniques that I do for myself on a daily basis. And that's just my Facebook page is Tara Lambert Kalajian. And, the spelling's on this, so you'll be able to find me. And then
I will drop the links for both of those in there as well.
Okay, good. Yeah, I have a brand new YouTube channel too. Instagram, YouTube. My YouTube is Tara Lambert Kalajian. It's brand new, so I put all my videos on there. And Instagram is TLK_NYC. And the TLK stands for Tara Lambert Kalajian in New York City.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for educating everyone today on not only your health experience in the chapters in your life and the root canals and everything else, but also, not only they can go back and look at the previous interview with you, but
right.
The modalities you use, the healing modalities you use, it's not just one, and then your discovery of the ozone and the oil, because I think not only are people interested in it, but I've used the product. My wife uses it. It's actually on our counter at home. It is used regularly now, and we both use it on our sinus areas. My wife puts, my wife is one of those people, she loves different types of skin care, but she will not put my wife is very careful what she puts on in her body, and she will not put toxins in her body. And so literally this has become on her table of only about, honestly, 2 or 3 things that she'll even use. And it goes on. And she's also Italian, so having olive oil go on the skin is very common.
Perfect.
In our world. She loves the combination. olive oil, but ozonated olive oil, which is phenomenal. So thank you so much for bringing this to everybody. We're going to put the links down below, both for your Facebook page, Tara's Ozone, so people can go and actually get the product. And thank you again for being on Revolution Health, Tara. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jason.
Absolutely. And thank you for educating us on your root canal issue. And also because, the movie, which is taken off because they don't want a lot of the truth being seen. The actual doctors that worked on Tara are actually in that movie.
That's right.
So you're looking at an actual product, no matter what kind of falsities that anybody wants to throw out there about the movie or anything else. Tara's living proof of how this stuff actually works. So thank you again for being on and helping everyone in their healing journey, Tara.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Jason.
All right, everybody, have a wonderful day. This is Dr. Jason Dean and Tara from Revolution Health today, saying goodbye and stay well. Have a great Friday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.